That's it for preseason. It's a wrap. Real basketball now. Pot on, everybody. Let's go.
Spot on. Spot on. Spot on.
Nets slap the undefeated in the preseason. The preseason champions, Minnesota Timberwolves. Interesting game tonight. Interesting in the sense of we finally saw a lineup that I've been begging for forever, which we'll discuss more in depth. But real interesting, real star-studded. It was almost like a practice run of a Broadway play. All the characters were doing their things. Kevin Durant was being Kevin Durantish on the sideline. He, in front of all cameras and everything, slaps Cam Thomas in the back of the head. I love that. That's a form of intimacy, folks. Like getting slapped in the back of your head from Kevin Durant. Like that shows you that people are close. And maybe that kid's gonna have a role, but let's talk about it. I'm gonna bring in my co-host, fellas. Preseason is over. What's your biggest takeaway? I'll start with you, Matt.
My biggest takeaway is I don't know that I'm mentally ready for the season. It seems too soon.
No.
They were just playing in June, and now we're back here. They play a real game on Tuesday. But I'm excited. I love the NBA. I love the Nets, and I'm ready for it to get going. Obviously, the circumstances, which we'll get into, are not what we were expecting. But this is still one of the best teams in the history of the franchise, and it's a huge year. So let's get going.
Yeah, listen, we're gonna do a preseason pod, and we're gonna get down to the nitty gritty with dissecting the team, but the lineup that we saw tonight, that to me was the most interesting thing. You had Claxton at the 5, Millsap at the 4, Durant at the 3, Joe Harris at his natural position, shooting guard, and Harden, bringing up the ball. Is that a just for tonight trying something, or is that for real, like something that Nash is gonna roll out in the regular season? Bam, that's you.
It's hard to tell, and I guess my biggest takeaway from tonight's game is there's going to be some difficult decisions in terms of the rotation and minutes, because I can't imagine that they're going to have all 3 centers in the rotation.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with.
When you say all 3 centers, that could be a lot of different people on the Nets.
Well, Blake, Clax, and Aldridge. And then you've got Millsap, you've got Bembry and Brown. There's a lot of guys in that 3, 4, 5 range. And obviously, Kevin's going to play. You know that.
Right.
How he's going to distribute those minutes is interesting, but you don't want to take too much out of a preseason game. But again, Claxton is he's the opposite of Blake and LaMarcus. He's not going to give us much offensively, but his defense was difference making tonight. He's deflecting balls. He blocked a shot on a post up shot, and he does bring the lob presence. So I don't think that's what he's going to start, but at some point this season, it might come down to that.
Sam, were you comfortable with that lineup?
Yeah, look, echoing everything that Matt basically said, I basically think that they're going to be working a lot of different things out and trying a million different things because they have a veteran coach and they have a bunch of players on the team that are vets and that have been there before. And I think if you were joining the Nets this year, you knew that this was going to be a season where there's legitimately only one goal. A bunch of these guys on the team, what kind of separates them out, because I've been comparing, obviously, they get compared to the Lakers all the time. What separates out this Nets team from the Lakers is that everybody on the Nets, for the most part, has already made a shitload of money and has made a lot of all-star games and has done a lot of stuff. Like, the Nets don't have, like, the Malik Monks and the Kendrick Nunns of the world who are really trying to prove to everybody, like, that they're worth a 5-year, whatever, $80 million deal. And so, like, and I think having Nash as a coach who's obviously been in a million big games and having a bunch of veterans around who are former all-stars both on the team and on the coaching staff, when you include guys like Korver and Amari and whatnot, like, I just think this is going to be a total team effort, and I think the lineup should be different every day. Like, I personally am going to be comfortable with everything, and I think it's also smart because when you look at the teams in the East, like, whether you're playing the Hawks or the Sixers or the Heat or the Bucks, like, every team is different, and like there should be guys who get used to playing a lot or not playing a lot, because that's what it's going to be like.
Yeah, so we saw zero Blake tonight, right? So
yeah, he said.
Obviously he's going to play a role. I think Nash believes in him. It just makes too much sense for me. Nick Claxton, you don't need more scoring. You don't need another jump shooter. You need someone who's going to run around and just be athletic. The Nets could be very static because they're so skilled. They could slowly bring the ball up and take turns at the top of the key and score 115 in a night. But if they're going to be just a good team that just steadily just consistently just mops other teams, they have to have another dimension to them, and that's what Nick Claxton brings. What is the argument against Nick Claxton? Let's play devil's advocate for me, Sam. What is the argument against Nick Claxton playing?
I mean, I think it's basically just, what his weaknesses are, which is that he obviously can't stretch the floor due to his lack of shooting. I think people have mentioned that his conditioning can be an issue, and he also at times is a little too over aggressive and gets into foul trouble. But look, I agree with you. I think having guys like him and Bembry, who are just more of just athletic dudes that can be on the floor and cause havoc, I think is necessary. I just think the topic of whether he should be starting, yes or no, I think that's just going to be totally dependent on the matchup.
Yeah, and for me, what I don't want to see is I don't want to see stretches where you have Javon Carter, Bembry, and Nick Claxton all together on the floor. There's no need for it. You can have a group which is going to feature Nick Claxton. You can have another group that's going to feature, Bembry as the energy guy, rebounder, physicality, lobs and dunks guy. You can have him do that with a different unit that doesn't have it in the other fives that we have that are more lumbering, slow, traditional fives. Matt, it's so let's guess that Blake is gonna, based off of this game, Blake is gonna play extended minutes. Blake is in the starting lineup. Is he the 4 or is he the 5?
He's not going to play the 4. So this is the dilemma that the Nets have right here. But if they play Harris at the 2, right, and they want to go with a bigger lineup.
And before you go, I want you to address this part too. Well, tonight, Harris at the 2 looked phenomenal. He didn't get beat up trying to stay with some athletic, small forward. Sometimes there's nights he's going to be facing 6'10" small forwards who are way more athletic, who are way faster. And tonight he just looked adequate in his role. Like that should affect how you answer. So I wanted to make sure.
Right. But my concern is, so Nick's not going to start, but I think I would start him.
Yeah.
You know, somebody's going to have to sit, you know, whether it's DeMarcus or Blake, but like you guys said, different games will call for different matchups. My biggest concern is who's guarding the point guards if you play a lineup that doesn't include Bruce in the starting five. Harden can't guard like a John Morant, and neither can Joe. So if the Nets are going to go big,
Yep.
I almost think you got to take Harris out of the starting five.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. I tweeted this during the game, and I think the biggest issue that they have is that when they go big, especially now that obviously you don't have Kyrie for now. Like I think the team that'll actually expose them the most, who I know Yves has actually been scared of now for a while, is the Hawks, because they just have a lot of athletes and a lot of guys who hover around the perimeter that can just slash at any period of time. And
right. The Hawks makes us look old. Like when we play them, they make us look like an older team because they're the opposite of us. They're all full of piss and vinegar.
Yep.
You know, but go ahead, Matt.
Think about starting Javon Carter at the 2.
I guess you could do that
because he can space the floor for you. You know, you play him, Harden, Claxton, Durant, and Millsap.
Look, I mean, here's the deal. Like when you have Harden and Durant on the team, you know, like I think a lot of Nets fans get scared of going 3-on-5 because you think back to like the Bull series of like 6 years ago or 7 years ago now with Reggie Evans and Gerald Wallace and how horrible it was to watch.
Nah.
But the difference is that now they actually have 2 of the top 6 players in basketball. And so, like, to me, if you were playing like a team that was more athletic, if you wanted to, you could almost play Bembry and Claxton with Harden, KD, and then pick your like other shooter or something like that, just to add some friskiness on the team.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sold on Javon Carter. I'm worried about him.
I've been really impressed by his play.
Yeah, I mean, I like him also.
No, the responses, and I think the overall response that he's been getting is that he's been good, but I see it completely different. I guess I'm gonna have to just need. I guess I'm gonna need to see more. They're playing the Bucks. First game is gonna be, you know, bittersweet.
They're losing that game.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Like, but wouldn't it be great if they won it? Wouldn't it be great if they won it? Like, because they're about to get their rings. They're gonna get their rings in front of the Nets. First game of the season.
I was surprised the Nets are favored to win the game.
Yeah, it's bizarre that they're still. I checked my book today, and they're still like a 1.5 favorite.
That's crazy. That means smart money didn't move it. If I try not to bet on the Nets. I've done it. Bet against the Nets. I've done it before. I won't lie. But if I was in a non-biased, I would have loved that line. That line is way too. It's way too much. The Nets should be getting at least 3 points here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nash is definitely going to have. I think, like Sam said earlier, there's going to be these first 25 games are going to be a trial run. We're going to see different lineups, different rotations. I think other than like Harden and Durant and the minutes they play, everybody else's minutes and when they play, when they come out, are going to get jumbled around a little bit because there are issues, you know, particularly defending point guards is going to be a big problem. Not that Kyrie is some old world defender, but he has the physical profile to match up with these guys, and
yeah,
we don't have that now.
Here's the deal. The only reason why I So I'm the